All right, the lineup is back. We have a special guest for this week's episode. Developed as one of the most valued international prospects of his generation, a youth spent between his home in Italy and the south of France, where he eventually caught the attention of Quicksilver, Pierre Agnier, Stephen Belly, Kelly Slater, and others, and was quickly folded into the Young Guns program alongside other up-and-comers like Mikey Wright, Kanoa Igarashi, and Jack Robinson. A stellar junior career capped off by qualifying for the Tour and a career-high 9th place finish on last season's rankings. He has a new sponsor in KWay, as well as longtime supporter Red Bull. He's recently engaged. Congratulations there. And we're recording this on Friday, February 2nd. He's won his opening round heat of CT1, the Lexus Pipe Pro presented by Yeti. Has yet to surf his round of 32 heat up against rookie Cade Matson. We have Italy's Leonardo Fioravanti. Leo, thank you so much for coming on the lineup.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. I mean, that was a very nice one. And I appreciate all the things that you said about me. So thanks, Dave. But I'm stoked to be here. We have a couple of lay days coming up. We already had one or two. And looks like it's going to be a bit tricky as well. But, I mean, we had a pretty insane opening day at the pipe contest. So that was exciting to have some real pipeline, you know, considering last year was quite different conditions than what we had this year.
Totally. I think we were due. So it was good to see on day one.
Yeah,
and hopefully we get a few more days for the culmination of the event. You know, we're talking about it. You're here on the North Shore of Oahu for the start of the 2024 CT season. We open the season at Pipe, and then we go to Sunset Beach. How long have you been on the island for? How early did you come out in advance of the start of the year?
I came in, I got here on the 10th of November. So I've been here for a long time. Yeah.
Yep.
So my fiance, Sophia, is from the North Shore. I have a place on the North Shore. So that is my winter base. I love spending time here. I love spending time in Hawaii. It's such a good place. I feel like, you know, there's so many different waves. If you actually don't only want to surf Sunset or Pipeline, there's actually a lot of waves that you can surf. And having Sophia's family as well, you know, makes it more of a home base for me. And my mom was here, got to spend Christmas with all her family, got to play a lot of golf at Turtle Bay, which I absolutely love doing. And as much time as I can spend in Hawaii, I'll do that, because not only it's a great place to be, but obviously our first two events are Pipeline and Sunset. And the more practice I can get, the more time I can spend out there, try out all my quiver of God knows how many boards. It's a great thing. You know, it's a positive thing for me.
Right. So you're kind of caught a little bit between, you know, locals who maybe grew up on the North Shore, right? John, who that's his home base, he's going back to in between events.
Of course, yeah.
And probably the majority of the tour that probably want to come as early as possible, but in some cases it's only a week or two before the event starts. You've been there for several months. I'm curious, is your approach to the start of the season the same every day from the time you land on the island, or do you give yourself some time to relax in mid-November, ease in, you know, ride different kind of shapes or whatever, relax, and then build up to the start of the year? What is it like for you being over there when you have a few months to get ready for the start of the season?
You know, for me, it's not about, it's not the moment I get to Hawaii, I'm thinking about Pipeline and Sunset. Definitely not. I enjoyed the island a bit more. I played a lot of golf. For sure, started to surf those places every day a little bit more. Sunset Pipe, but not too much. A big goal of mine was actually not to over surf Pipeline, because it's such a dangerous wave. And so I really didn't want to get hurt coming up, you know, before Pipeline. Try to be smart about it. Surf it when it's clean. If it's a bit messy, if it's a bit sketchy, try to stay away from it. The day that Joao Chianca got hurt, which is it's so unfortunate, and I hope that Joao has a great recovery. I surfed Sunset in the morning, and my plan was to surf Sunset when everybody was all excited to surf Pipe, and then go to Pipe around lunchtime when maybe people already had some waves and the locals had their fair share of a couple of hours of insane pipeline. And when Joao got hurt, I wasn't feeling it. I totally wasn't feeling it. I obviously can relate very much to Joao. And I was like, you know what? Unless you go to pipeline 100% committed, it's better not to go out. And that day for me, after what happened to Joao, I preferred to stay away from it. I went and had an afternoon session at Sunset. And I think that was a smart decision. You know, not saying that obviously it's not smart or smart to surf pipeline, but the way that I was feeling in that moment relating to Joao's injury and obviously still not knowing how Joao was going to recover and how he is doing, I had a full hole inside of me, and I'm not scared to talk about it because we're all scared to surf pipeline. And there's moments that we're more fired up and there's moments that we're not feeling it. And that day I surfed Sunset, was smart about it, and came back the next day or a couple of days after.
Such an interesting insight there. And it's something that must be unique really across all of sports, right? Because we're dealing with the most dynamic field of play for any sport, right? It's not static at all. Every day is different. The waves are different depending on where we're at on tour. Sure. And as you outlined, you're wrestling with this internal appetite as a surfer and a core surfer to go, yeah, I want to surf pipeline. I want to get barreled. I want to go out there and test myself, and having to balance that out with two things, right? Where it's like, if I'm hurt before the season, that's a real disappointment for me. But also, I have to be really sharp. And if I'm not feeling 100% in my body or my equipment or my mind, I'm not going to go there. Is that something that discipline, is that something that you've developed later in life, or was that always there from the beginning? Because I'd imagine when you're younger, you're just like, every session, no matter how dangerous, I'm going, right?
Oh my God, no way. That comes with experience. I am 26 years old today. Obviously, I'm still young, but I've been around for a long time. The first years, actually the year that I broke my back at Pipeline, there was a photographer. His name was Timo Jarminen, worked for Quicksilver for many years, got film on Instagram, an amazing photographer. And he told me that at the end of the winter or after, when I went back to Europe to get all my surgeries and stuff, he's like, dude, this winter, you were going crazy. It was like you're almost going too hard to the point where everybody was kind of not expecting, but thinking that you were going to get injured because you were going so nuts. And maybe the wipeout that I actually got hurt didn't look so bad, but it's just when you push it so many times, it's not a matter of if you're going to get hurt, it's when you're going to get hurt. And that injury definitely taught me a lot about pipeline, made me way more scared about pipeline, 100%. And also made me realize, okay, I love to get barreled. I would say I'm not somebody who's scared of bigger waves, but I need to be smart about it. I need to go out, pick my waves, try to find my hole in the crowd, and really, be smart about the waves that I pick. And you see guys like John and Jamie, and obviously they're the best pipe surfers, but not only they get the best waves, in a session, they might fall off once or twice. And a lot of times they might catch 5 or 6 waves and make all of them. So I think that's something to learn from by those guys. And with the years of surfing pipeline and spending time here, I've noticed that, I got to be smart about it.
It is interesting. I'm curious though, and I'm not, depending on your answer, I'm not recommending everyone go like, we have to be as reckless as possible to get as good as you've gotten at surfing pipeline. Yeah. But do you think that if you hadn't been pushing it when you were younger and developing, I guess my question is, do you think there was another way to get comfortable and experienced out there, or it's just, hey, you have to pay your dues, and some people pay them very quickly and some people take their time?
Pipeline, you need to spend time out there. And obviously I talked about John and Jamie and those guys, but I'm sure those guys have had gnarly injuries out there, gnarly wipeouts. They've been in situations where they were scared and got hurt, obviously, and put out of the water. So obviously, I wouldn't say you have to get hurt to be good at pipeline. That's not. But you need to spend time out there to feel comfortable. Because when a 10-footer comes and you have the priority and it's in the Pipe Masters or the Pipe Pro, whatever it's called now, you have to be able to be confident that not only you're going to catch the wave, it's not about just going. It's I'm going and I'm making it. And I'm not just getting a 3 or a 4 in front of the barrel. I'm going, I'm going to stall, let go at the right time, and understand the wave, because when you're scared, it's not only about going, it's easy. Then you got to really think about every single detail, the paddle, the angle, the takeoff, stalling at the right time, letting go of the grab, doing a pump. And especially in a heat, if you get in front of the barrel, you might go from getting an 8 to getting a 4. And that's a complete different story. So that's where I think I learned from John, Kelly, Jamie, that on those waves, even though it's 10-foot waves, they maximize the score and they put themselves in the perfect spot so that they're on the foam bowl, but right in front of it, and then come out with the spit, if not after the spit.
I love that. We're going to dive into your backstory in the next segment, but when it comes to Hawaii, how old were you when you first came to the North Shore? And you mentioned some of the people that you look up to. Were there any other mentors specifically at Pipe that worked with you and helped you get comfortable out there?
I've been coming to the North Shore since I was 10 years old. The first year, I spent my first 10th birthday, and I've been coming here since. So that is 16 years. So that's a lot of years coming to the North Shore. Spending a lot of time at Pipeline, watching the waves. I think I'm obviously, maybe I almost didn't realize it at the time, but I was there for both of Jeremy's Pipe Master wins. And seeing what Jeremy did at the time, I didn't realize how insane it was to become a 2 times Pipe Master.
Yeah.
But now that I'm on the world tour, and last year I was so close to getting a win myself, looking back at that, it's like, that is such an inspiration. Jeremy coming from France, obviously himself as well, spending a lot of time on the North Shore, but not only going out to surf, but proving that he's one of the best out there against the best surfers in the world. I think that's something very inspiring. Another inspiring thing to me was somebody like Kieran Piro, who many people don't realize, but he got second the year that Jeremy won, came back the next year and won the Pipe Masters. That's incredible. Well, you get second the very next year, you win the whole contest. That's like a legendary status that people don't really talk about. So I think I relate, myself, I try and relate more to those guys that, yes, I learned a lot from Jamie, John, the people that really surf Pipeline a lot, but I see myself more as a competitor at Pipeline and how I can understand Pipeline the best possible way in competition so that I can achieve, obviously, my long life dream of putting that trophy above my head, which is the best trophy in the world, I think, to me, at least single event.
I love it. Those are great stories. Well, let's talk about this event, the Lexus Pipe Pro presented by Yeti. It's the opening stop on the 2024 Championship Tour season. As of recording, we ran that opening day. You drew Liam O'Brien and Frederica Moraes in the opening round. And, it was a slower heat, right? Which is, I think, something that's hard, I think, for people to wrap their heads around when they're like, well, Pipe's firing. I'm seeing all this stuff, but it can be firing and there's still slow heats. But you got through, but maybe talk us through that experience and, how you can kind of focus even if you're adrenaline spiking on the other rides you're seeing throughout the day and you're just confronted with the conditions you got for those 35 minutes.
I think I went out to really focusing on the heat and my competitors. And at the start, we had a couple of wash through sets that completely messed up the lineup. It was a shit show. It was like, and then even when the set stopped, there was a crazy current coming through the lineup. So I'm just paddling the whole time, couldn't really get to the spot and the lineup spot that I wanted to get to. And I'm thinking, at the start, because obviously it's been a couple of years that I haven't surfed the heat at Pipeline when it's 8 to 10 feet. I'm thinking, is this what it is? Is this what guys are getting 9s on and I'm absolutely sucking? Like those thoughts came in my mind, of course, those negative thoughts that like, how come those guys are able to position themselves? This is incredible. The current's gnarly, I'm paddling, there's water moving everywhere. So then I realized 20 minutes into the heat when it finally the current stopped and it cleaned up, and I'm like, okay, this is what it feels like more a normal pipeline instead of what the last 20 minutes. So obviously that was a little moment. We hadn't competed in a while that I had to get back into it. But then I just tried to surf a heat. I made sure that I caught a decent barrel, which was like a high 4. And then I had another one that I caught with priority that if I came out, I think it would have been a 7.5, a 7, a 7.5. Right at the end, I was doggy dooring it and the lip got me. And that would have closed the heat. So there I kind of left the door open, obviously, for Liam and Fred to come back. But same thing, when you surf an 8 or a 9 minute heat of pipeline, that's not so much you can do. Of course, you're going to catch one wave that you don't come out or things happens. But in 30 minutes of that, you can figure it out. A 9 minute heat, it was tough.
Yeah, I always think that's a big part of, when I was a kid, like we didn't have webcasts, right? So you get the contest report in the magazine and it's all the best photos, or you get the VHS tape and it's all the highlights, and you just go, man, the Dream Tour, it must just pump. Like every single heat just must be pumping, but they're not including just the everyday stuff, right? Now that we have instant access with the webcast, it's like, oh no, those heats and those lully heats and those wash through heats, they always happen. We weren't exposed to it in a lot of ways. So you've got a rookie. You got the rookie Cade Matson coming up in your next heat, which may have run by the time this airs. Yeah. Do you approach the heat with a rookie any differently, or is it just the same for everybody?
Cade is an amazing surfer, and he might be a rookie, but all those new guys are so devoted. They're so committed to being the best possible athletes. They're incredible surfers and incredible talents. So I want to make sure that, I would never take it as a rookie. It's going to be a super challenging heat. Cade's an amazing barrel rider, even though that, he hasn't had the chance to prove himself yet. And I'm sure that he will try to prove himself as much as possible against me. So I'm not going to take him lightly. He goes for it. He's not scared of pipeline. We've seen that first. I've seen some free surfs. He got some incredible waves. And that wipeout, that riot was a 10-foot square one. And he went for it. Of course he ate but he went for it. So that shows that he goes for it. If the moment is coming, he's going to give it his best. So it's going to be a very challenging heat. And I'm going to have to bring the best out of myself 100%.
I love it. Well, listeners, by the time this airs, make sure you are watching the Lexus Pipe Pro presented by Yeti. It's on worldsurfleague.com, YouTube, the WSL app, and ESPN+. We're going to take a quick break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. This is the lineup. I'm Dave Prodan here with CT surfer Leonardo Fioravanti. Let's run it back, Leo. One of the more interesting things about you is that you come from one of the least common places for elite level surfers. You were born in Rome, Italy, first CT surfer ever, I believe, unless there's a story out there we haven't heard about. But tell us, what was it like growing up? Like mom, dad, early life, and how did you get into surfing?
Growing up in Italy was amazing. I love my country. I love the food in my country, which who doesn't love the food in Italy? But it was really cool. And like you said, obviously surfing was not a part of our culture. The beach club that me and my brother and our parents brought us to, the owners were surfers. It was called Ocean Surf. So there was a little bit of a surf culture, which is very rare for our area. Put us on a surfboard or put me on a surfboard, and I loved it. All I wanted to do was surfing. I got home, and on television, I was just able to, there was a surf channel, so I was able to actually watch surfing. I had a Kelly poster in my room, a Mick Fanning poster. My brother had an Andy poster. So we're just these random Italian kids that live in a culture that's got nothing to do with surfing, obviously absolutely in love with surfing. And my parents understood that. They were very understanding. They realized that these kids love the sport, and let's give them, what they love. Let's take them on holidays to France, to Portugal, give them the opportunity to surf. And that's when I slowly started going to France, going to Portugal, and finding some sponsors. because they realized that I could actually surf, which actually at the time was Stephen Bell and his co-team manager, Thomas Porte, which was the French European team manager. And that's when I was 9 years old. And that was a huge change in my career because I went from not knowing much about surfing to having Quicksilver as my main sponsor. And at the time, they had the best possible guidance and road for young athletes like myself, like you said before, Kanoa, Igarashi, Mikey, Jack. And so I think we're all so grateful for those moments. The head of that was Pierre Agnès, which we have to speak about, obviously. Unfortunately, he passed away 60 years, only a couple of days ago, 60 years ago. Very sad moment for not only European surfing, for surfing in general, because Pierre was an amazing person. But yes, I'm so grateful for all the moments that I've spent with Quicksilver. Red Bull came along, which they've supported me so much. And I think for a young career, yes, I am from Italy. I am from a country that's got nothing to do with surfing, but I had the right people that guided me to become a professional surfer. And I'll forever be grateful for that.
Yeah. It was such a unique time, right? Because the surfing world across all the stakeholders has gone through so much change since its inception, but certainly in the last 20 years. But right around when you were being noticed by Quicksilver was in a lot of ways like the peak for the endemic industry. And you mentioned Pierre Agnès, and he was really a visionary in a lot of ways, in the way he looked at talent, in the way he identified it, and the way he gave it a roadmap to develop. And it was really special. And at Quicksilver, it was one of those things with the Young Guns program. And so for listeners out there that maybe haven't heard of it, could you describe just what that meant, how you experienced it, and what kind of other surfers you got introduced to through it? Because it just seemed like such a great advantage to be in that program at the time.
Well, what that meant was the best. It was incredible. It was Belly was taking us, Stephen Bell, who was the global team manager, was taking us 12, 13-year-olds, myself, Kanoa, Jack, to World Tour events and stay with Kelly, with Dane, with Dane Reynolds, Jeremy Flores, Freddie Patakia. And that's the best possible learning skills you can give to a kid. You put him in a house with the best in the world, and kids are like sponges. They learn, they take in, and that's what we're all doing, learning. And at the same time, maybe 3-4 times a year, we were doing these incredible surf trips to Indonesia, to Europe, to Australia, to Hawaii. So it's not the contracts that maybe Quicksilver or Red Bull were giving us. It's mainly the experiences that they gave us. I mean, Quicksilver rented a house for myself and my mom for 4 months in California and put me in a school in Huntington Beach so that I was able to go to school, surf, compete in the NSSAs and all the local competitions when I was 13 years old. Companies don't do that anymore. So it's not the money that I receive from those companies. It's the structure that they had and the amount of how much they really cared to make sure that the next Kelly Slater, which there will never be a next Kelly Slater, obviously, but every brand would always hope for that. They were given the best every possibility to achieve that. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen anymore. Today, luckily, Red Bull is still a very, very big player in that. They have an amazing high performance team that supports all the surfers, which we're so grateful as Red Bull athletes. But not many other companies. With the Olympics, though, what's changed a little bit today is that the surfing federations are investing more money into the new generation. So what brands used to do today, the surfing federations, Italian federation, French federation are doing that for the next generation, which is great to see. But back then it was a completely different world. Brands had money to spend and they spent it a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they spent it the right way. Yeah,
no, I agree. But they also, I'm interested too, because maybe you kind of humbly blew past this, but they didn't just spend it on anyone, and for a kid from Italy at 9 years old, spending a bit of time in Portugal and France to be noticed and to be invested in, you had to be very, very good. And I'm curious, in your memory, was surfing something that came naturally to you, or was it something you had to work at? Because it seems like, compared to maybe other kids at the time who grew up at the beach or grew up at this wave or whatever, you didn't have as much time to get that good, but you were. So I'm curious how natural it felt for you.
I think it felt natural being in the ocean, being in bigger conditions. I always felt comfortable. I do think, though, the first couple of trips that we ever did when I was about 11 or 12 and I was hanging with Jack, I was hanging with Kanoa, I could always see that they had more natural talent than me. At least I felt that way. But I was never scared by that. I was always a competitive kid. And so it always pushed me and it always made me more motivated to learn from them and to see when I could get to that level. But I think when I was 12 years old, and I went and did the Aki Grom Comp in Australia and the Rusty Grom Fest, which were these two events that still today they're happening, but back then they meant a lot. It was like under 12s, under 14s, under 16s. And I flew all the way to Australia by myself, actually, which this is a funny story because flying to Australia at 12 years old, my mom, she trusted that I would get there. I did have how airlines have like somebody that, takes care of you, but one plane got delayed. I had to spend the night in London in a hotel. Showed up at the hotel counter going, "Hey, can I get a room? This is a voucher from the airline." They were like, "Okay, this is weird." But my road to Australia took about 50 hours by myself. But anyways, when I made it there, the very first comp was the Aki Grom Comp, and I won it. And all these Australian kids who I'm still competing against was Mikey, was Jack Robinson. Kanoa was actually there as well at the time. They were all probably tripping. Who's this Italian kid coming out of nowhere and winning the first event? So I think there I realized, okay, like I have the level to compete against them. And if I keep working, keep improving, I'll be able to maintain that level. If not, become better hopefully one day.
Well, Aki would have been stoked too, because he's got Italian ancestry too. So he's probably like, finally, all right, here we go. Yeah,
always tells me. He always tells me.
Well, that can sometimes be a double-edged sword, right? That amount of support, because it comes with a certain level of exposure and expectations, whether that's sponsor expectations or media expectations or fan expectations, the expectations you put on yourself. Did you ever wrestle with that when you started moving into the qualifying series and campaigning to make it to the elite level? Did you ever struggle with, this is harder than I thought it would be, and even that support, it's still difficult? Or did you feel like you had all the tools you needed to do what you needed to do?
The qualifying series were actually a very, not to brag about it, but they were actually came across very easy for me. My first full year on the QS, the first 3 events, which were 6,000s, which are pretty big events, I went second, and then the first Prime in Bolito, which back then was Challenger Series, was called Prime, I made the quarterfinals. So all of a sudden, I had already maybe 20,000 points by May. So I was almost guaranteed qualified by then. So there I was like, oh wow, I'm the I'm incredible. That was too easy. I just nailed this. All of a sudden, 6 months later, I qualified for the World Tour because the year ended. I get to Snapper. Throughout my career, I never had any getting smoked so much. I was always in the juniors, did very well, in the under 16s. I stay under 18. I had great results. I get to the World Tour. First event, get smoked. Boom. Second event, get smoked. Boom. Third event, boom. Fourth event in Brazil, boom. So 4 events, round 1 losses. Obviously, as an 18-year-old, I was freaking out. I remember this is a really funny story. In Saquarema, after I lost 4 times in a row, I lost my heat. I walked back by myself for 20 minutes, crying, devastated. I shouldn't be here. I don't deserve to be here. I get to the house, which was Kanoa and Zeke staying at the house. I walk into the room with my sunglasses and a hat. My board bag was already made. I'm like, bye guys. See you next time. Left. They were tripping. To this day, we laugh about that day because I was devastated. And that time, I actually... Go. You can interrupt me. Go.
No. What I was going to ask is, that seems to be so common, and it doesn't always make it through the webcast. Just the level at the CT, it's hard to understand and appreciate, like, the speed and the power and how good everyone is. And I remember even when I first started, like, was a fan before I started, 19 years ago at this point. And, when you're young, you're like, oh my God, like Mick and Andy and Kelly, like those guys are up here. And you're looking at the guys at the bottom of the rankings being like, there's, I don't know. And then I remember going on tour and being in the water with those guys, just anyone on the rankings, but even the guys at the bottom, and thinking, these are the best surfers I've ever seen in my life by like 100 times the margin. And you just realize how good everyone is. Yeah. So I was wondering, what was your experience when you were getting smoked? What do you think was it? Was it in terms of why do you think you weren't getting the results?
The crazy part is that the heat that I lost in Margie's was against Joe Parkinson. I had 15 points. He had 16 points.
Yeah.
The heat I lost at Bells Beach, I had 16.93, and Seabass had 16.97.
Right.
And then Brazil, I needed a 4, and I stood up a second later and did a big air, but that was too late. And it was a very low scoring heat. So even that first year, I then ended up going to Fiji. I made a quarterfinal, so I finally had a pretty good result. Went to J-Bay, I got 9, so I had a good result. And then Tahiti came around, and in my second round, my seating was a bit better. So I'm like, okay, I should get a decent, heat. In my second round, I get Jeremy Flores at Chopu. So I'm like, oh God, like, here we go. But I'm like, okay, I got this. First wave, he starts with a 9. I start with a 9.4. Second wave, he gets an 8. I get a 7.5. Third wave, he gets a 9. And at the end, I get an 8.5, and I lose with like 17.9 or something like that. So it wasn't like I was getting completely smoked, but I was like, what do I have to do? So to me, it was like, it was a very hard year, honestly. Yeah. But it was great. I learned a lot. I realized that I thought the QS was hard and the CT was easy. Well, guess what? The QS is hard and the championship tour is way harder.
Right.
So just you got to keep improving, keep being better and better and better and better every season. And since that year in 2017, I've improved. And I know I have, because if I hadn't, I would not be where I am today.
Right. And it's interesting to hear that, right? Because as you said, it's like your surfing is there. You're getting good scores, which is an important thing. And that doesn't always happen at the CT level. But as you pointed out, like, even if you have a good heat, there's just no real margin for error at the CT, because the other person in the heat could have a better one. We always called this the Sean Canstel season, right? Was when Sean fell off tour years ago. He was losing with 17 points in his heat, and it would have won any other heat in the round. It was just someone got 18 points, and it was just everyone was just baffled at how this could happen to such a good surfer. But that's the level.
That's the level. And I do want to go back to the question that you actually asked, which was, did it put pressure on me being in the spotlight and everything? And 100% it did. I had big contracts. I was the up and coming European surfer. So I felt like I had to prove something to people. And when my results weren't showing, it made me very, 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 very sad. Because if my results aren't coming, then people that put their, everything on the line for me, I'm not showing them what I deserve, or what I should, if I deserve it or not.
Right.
And with time, with years, I realized that I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing this for anyone else. I don't care about contracts, or I don't care about this and that. I really want to do this because I love competing. I love being on the world tour, and I want to give the best out of myself no matter what.
I love it. We're going to take one more quick break, and we will come back for the last part of our conversation. We'll be right back. All right, we are coming back from break. This is the lineup. I'm Dave Prodan with Italy's Leonardo Fioravanti. Leo, you had this great story earlier in the conversation about how you looked up to Jeremy Flores, especially being a two-time pipe master. One thing I want to talk to you about, because you were so good in critical waves. And I remember working on tour when Jeremy was coming up, and everyone on tour kind of knew that he was really gnarly at places like Chopu and places like Pipeline and Reef Passes. But it felt like the broader surfing world had a misconception of him. They were like, oh, he's like a very technical contest surfer, a little, Kelly Slater jersey wind-up doll kind of thing. And he's just a small wave surfer, And I think that's a real unfair stigma that surfers from Europe have had over time. I think it's a lot different now than it was, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I guess that's one of the beautiful things about this platform, right? Is like, it doesn't matter what people think of you. You have the opportunity to show them who you are instead of having to tell them who they are. And it feels like both Jeremy and you have absolutely answered that question across so many serious kind of waves already.
Yeah, that's, I think you've put it perfect. I think Jeremy, what Jeremy's done, 2-time spot master, 1 Chopu, and 1 Hostigor in perfect barrels. That shows that he is one, if not the best barrel riders in the world. And there's no doubt about that. Nobody can challenge that. And that's inspiring to me 100%. But it also motivates me because I feel like I can reach that level, and not to take anything away from Jeremy. But I would love to follow the steps that Jeremy, took and go for it. Jeremy went for it. He wasn't afraid to compete against Kelly or the best guys in those conditions, and he wasn't afraid to beat them. And I think that's what I'm inspired by. And I hope that in my career, I have many years left, and that I can keep on getting barreled and keep on, getting results, but also showing up in the conditions that I feel the most comfortable in, which I do believe are barrels and heavier conditions.
Right. You spoke very graciously about your time with Quicksilver and the opportunities that they provided you. And as we said, the industry's been through so much change. And a few years ago, you parted ways with Quicksilver, who had been supporting you for quite a long time, and started working with KWay, which is historically a non-endemic brand. But your profile has also kind of existed inside and outside of surfing. You've been the face of the House of Gucci and other kind of brands as well. So I would imagine that compared to a lot of surfers in our environment, it felt more comfortable for you to develop those relationships inside and outside of surfing as well.
Yeah, obviously when my relationship ended with Quicksilver, I was very sad because it's been so many years with being with them. But, when one door closes, I truly believe that other doors open. And that's when I went, okay, I think it's definitely not the end of the world. I'm super happy where I am. I'm grateful for everything that I've had with Quicksilver. So I never left with a sour taste or F this, F that. I was always very grateful and look back at the amazing times, but also look forward at like the next projects. And when I met the owners of KWay, which are 2 really nice young, Lorenzo Boglione and Alessandro Boglione, the sons of the father who started BasicNet, which is a bigger company. Not only KWay, there's also Kappa, which is the very big sports brand, Sebago, Superga. So they're a very big company, but they're not a corporate company. They're a family-owned. They love sports. The 2 brothers are only 36 and 34, Lorenzo and Alessandro. We played golf together many times. We've had a great relationship since. And honestly, it's been one of the best steps that I could have done in my career. Today, I'm so happy where I'm at. I have a great relationship. I feel like it's back to what it used to be with Quicksilver. It was much more family/relationship where you can open up about anything. You have a point of contact. I'm designing my new collection, which is the first ever collection that I've done, and I've always wanted to do that. So there's so many exciting projects about this new chapter in my career, and I never looked at it as endemic or non-endemic. I looked at it as, am I happy? Am I excited? Is this what I want? And honestly, this is exactly what I want. And also, being Italian, I've been very grateful that it's opened up to many different partnerships. Like you said, with Gucci, had so many years, so many great years as an ambassador of Gucci. Panerai, which is a luxurious watch brand. And the Italian market is a great market, and I'm proud to be Italian.
Last September, we got word, and it's exciting because someone that you worked with who ultimately became family to you, Stephen Bell, opened up Bell Surfing in Hossegor, which haven't been there yet, but it seems really exciting. It seems like it is a place that is hardcore surfing. It's based on surfboards, it's based on surfing and those things. But can you describe that relationship for us a little bit, and just a little bit about the store opening? Because I think that ties in with your own relationship with surfboards as well.
Well, first of all, Stephen Bell was the global team manager for Quicksilver for so many years. Spent years and years winning world titles with Kelly, which he's very happy and proud of. But also, he's had his surfboard company called Euroglass since the 1990s in Hossegor. Started it by himself, always worked hard for it to keep it going. Incredible shapers like Christian Bradley, Mark Phipps, Phil Grace. But, a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, he left Quicksilver and devoted his life 100% to Euroglass. Now, Belly is also married to my mom for 15 years, which that's been the greatest stepfather I could ever ask for. When my parents separated, obviously it's always hard. It's always a hard moment. But for me to have two dads is the best thing in the world. I get my Italian dad, which is back home, and I get Steven, who's my stepdad, and we share so many passions together, surfing, golfing. And my brother as well, my older brother, he's the general manager of Euroglass for the last 7 or 8 years. So it is a very family-based project. Obviously, Steven and my brother, they put so much effort into making the next move. And the next move was Bell Surfing. We wanted to open up a shop that wasn't just a surf shop, but it was a concept. Really have a company that focused on the core of surfing, that delivered the best possible surfboards, best possible products. And I hope that we can keep doing that. It's been about 4 months since we've opened the shop. I hope we can keep doing that, keep building the best possible surfboards. And I think this is something that will grow much bigger than just a surf shop. We're doing our own surf accessory company called Bell with the surf grips, accessories, and everything. So it's an exciting project, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Good for you guys. I can't wait to get out there and check it out. On the topic of surfboards, we're running the second season of the Vissla CT Shaper rankings. Last season was the maiden year. We get to kind of honor everyone that puts so much investment and work into building boards for the world's best surfers. And you yourself, getting to scan your Hawaii quiver, it's a couple of boards, but it looks like you've got a mix, right? You've got Sharp Eyes, you've got Christian Bradleys, there's some Arakawas in there, some Pangs. Describe your Hawaii quiver for us, and how you put it together, and how you keep it organized in your head in terms of like, okay, this is what I'm going to use today.
For close friends that can enter my garage, you'll see it's quite organized. I have it pretty set up to where I have notes. I know where every board is. There's about 50 to 60 boards down there, but today I can tell you exactly, okay, Dave, go to the fourth rack, you'll find a 6'2 Christian Bradley or a 6'2 whatever. So I'm very organized with that. But Hawaii is the one place that you can really ride so many different boards. Sharp Eyes have been the boards that I've been riding in small, high performance conditions the whole year. Amazing boards. Mike Bradley's, they feel really good in heavy conditions. So the other day at Pipeline, I was riding a 6'6 Bradley, And then there's also the Hawaiian shapers, so Pang and Arakawa, who, especially Eric Arakawa, I spent a lot of time trying his boards over here. And in the barrels and heavy conditions, I mean, there's a lot that you can learn from shapers like that. And feeling comfortable on a very, very big wave is something very important. And those guys have helped me throughout my younger years and many years achieve that. So it's a great mix, I think. And I learned from every single one of those shapers and try to ride the best board in the best condition, in the right conditions.
You know, you've always, even before you and I met, have come across as a hard worker, you know, and dedicated and professional, and you've gotten better year over year, inside and outside of the jersey, absolutely via the results. And even though you've always been a hard worker, I was talking to one of your competitors on tour, and they brought up your work ethic, and they said in the last 5 years he's never worked harder, and it's evident. A, is that true? And then B, what is your goal? Like, I mean, as you said, you improve every year. Like what is your goal in 2024, and how does that build to maybe some 2 to 3 year goals for you? I
mean, I know I'm putting the work in there, and I love it. That's an important part. You know, I love doing this. I love trying to bring the best out of myself. The level on the World Tour, Dave, is so high that you have to give everything you can, whether it's in the water, whether it's in the gym, whatever it is, you have to give it everything you have. Because there's guys like Gabriel Medina, John, Griffin, Jack, those guys are animals. Those guys are so hard to beat. So if Leonardo Fioravanti, doesn't bring the best version of Leonardo Fioravanti, I cannot even get close to beating those guys, you know? And that's what I focus on. And what are my goals for this year? Obviously, I can tell you, I want to make the top 5. I want to win events. I want to be a world champion. I want to be an Olympic champion. All those things are in my mind. But I want to keep improving. I want to keep bringing the best version of myself at every event. And if that means winning events, great. But I will, if it doesn't, then that's okay. But I will always bring the best version of myself, and I will challenge every competitor out there and make them work to beat me. And that's what I want to focus on.
I love it, and it definitely shows. Before you go, we did put out some question feelers from the Instagram community at the Lineup Pod, and we got plenty back for you, but we've whittled them down to 3. First question is from @MikeSharp8128, who asks, what benefit do you think being so exposed to the tour as a grom gave you in your career today?
The best benefit that I could say is that it made me comfortable traveling all around the world and feeling at home everywhere I go. I have friends everywhere I go. I feel comfortable traveling, and I never miss home, which is a very important part. And I think because I started traveling at a very young age, being at those events, being at those locations, today I'm able to feel comfortable the moment that I get there.
A great answer. Next question is from @Noah Purrington, who asks, who is the next grom to look out for from Europe?
The next grom to look out for, I would say, is a very young Italian surfer. He's 10 years old. He lives between Italy and Bali, and his name is Rocco Rigliaco. He's a great little surfer, charges like crazy, and he's improving quick, and I'm proud to watch him improve and to surf with him as well. I love surfing with him.
Another good answer. Third one. This is from @AC Condon, who asks, what does Captain Belly say to you at this stage in your career?
He always tells me to have fun. Always. He always tells me, it's the best ever. Get out there and have fun. This is what you dreamed of your whole life. And that's the best thing that somebody can tell you. I think to keep having fun and keep enjoying it. And I really appreciate when Steven reminds me of that.
Awesome. Thank you to everyone that wrote in questions at the Lineup Pod. We're now down to our final segment. This is the lightning round. So these are
Okay.
10 questions for you to answer as quickly as you can.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me drink
First
some water
question.
first.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm ready now. Let's go.
All righty. First question. If you could only have one board setup for the rest of your life, single fin, twin fin, thruster, quad bonzer, or finless, which would you choose?
Thruster.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Burrito or pizza?
Pizza.
Last book you read.
That. What was that?
You said it, and I'm like, oh yeah, better be. Next question. Last book you read?
Green Light by Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, interesting. Best surf film ever?
Stranger Than Fiction.
What is one wave you never have to go back to?
Never have to go back to?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Oof. That's a hard one. Probably the wave that the Olympics were at in Japan.
That's fair. It's totally fair. That look very tricky. If you could only get to surf one wave for the rest of your life, you can dreamcast it. It could be perfect conditions, just your buddies, whatever. What wave would you choose?
Cloud break.
Best person to share a lineup with?
My brother. Mateo.
Worst person to share a lineup with?
Sometimes my brother Mateo too.
I like it. Last one. Finish this sentence. I will next achieve a state of happiness by...
I will next achieve a state of happiness by marrying Sophia.
Ah, beautiful answer. Leo, thank you so much for coming on the lineup, man. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was long overdue. We got to bring you back. Congrats on all the success you've had. Can't wait to see what you do this season. And yeah, man, good luck at the rest of the Lexus Pipe Pro presented by Yeti.
Thank you. I hope you guys will be watching, or you already watched it whenever this episode comes out. But it's going to be exciting, and we're going to have fun and hopefully get barreled.